not recording. Um, oh, I should ask you, Michael, is it okay if I record this?
Not a problem.
You. Now that I started. Um, all right, I think we're not going to do a joke because we're online, but thank you for the invocation. And I want to welcome you. Those who are just tuning in have missed all of our COVID talk. You're very lucky. Uh, is there anyone prior to going on with people who have reports who would like to add anything to that or have anything of a lovely personal nature they'd like to share? Anything good happening? We know Ellen has a bat mitzvah coming up. Anybody else?
No, I do. I do.
Eileen and then Felicia.
Yeah, our daughter Alana got a full-time permanent position, virtual, remote, doing marketing and coordinating. It's called cross-cultural communication. She started yesterday, so we're very happy about that.
Very good. Terrific. Felicia?
I just wanted to say hi to everybody. It's my first time participating and
Welcome.
just joined Hadassah. I'm very excited and thank you. And I look forward to getting to meet all of you in person at some point in the future.
Right. Jan?
Hi, I'm also new to this group. I moved here from Ohio, and Short is my sister. And I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person at sometime in the future.
And we look forward to meeting both of you also. I thought it would be now, but too, like I say, it's got to pass, got to get better. Phyllis, was your hand up? You're waving? Because you're
She's
muted.
muted. Phyllis, you're muted. Oh.
I was just saying hello to everybody. Welcome. This is
Thank you.
a unique meeting.
Well, we did have other hopes, but
Well, maybe next month, who knows?
absolutely. Okay, Bonnie Zuckerman, we so often forget because advocacy wasn't always part of the group. Do you have anything you'd like to report on today?
Actually, I do. Just something very brief. I just want to stress the importance of contacting Education Secretary Miguel Carano to support the addition of the question on the Office of Civil Rights, the Civil Rights Survey, asking whether or not schools are teaching comprehensive Holocaust education. And the reason is it's very important to collect this information. It's really essential to strengthening understanding and awareness of the Holocaust in younger generations. So this is typically a survey that the Office of Civil Rights puts out on a yearly basis, and just want to stress the importance of adding that question, just so we know what's going on as far as Holocaust education. So that's basically the main thing I wanted to stress.
Thank you. I know that Hadassah's been working on it, and Pennsylvania is not one of the states.
No.
I believe, did they pass it, but they have done nothing about it? Or
Well, they passed, I know in Congress about a year and a half ago, they had passed, support for teachers and everything like that as far as, curriculums, that type of thing. But we just don't know really who's doing it in public schools and who's not. And with the rise of anti-Semitism, they said that incidents are up like doubled. So it's just, especially important for, this education and to see really what's being taught.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just if anybody is aware of HAMMOck, are you all familiar with that organization? It's the Holocaust Awareness Museum and Education Center, and it's housed at KI. And they are very involved in Holocaust education for Pennsylvania and have teacher events as well as community events and survivor events. So if you aren't familiar with that, it's hamec.org.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Felicia. Okay, for annual
Eileen.
contribution.
Eileen,
Yes. Phyllis?
Eileen,
Phyllis.
yes.
Yeah.
I had just heard, Yes, I hope you can hear me. My bandwidth is low. I don't know what that means. Uh, but I had just heard at JRC board meeting, someone brought up that in a Pennsbury school district, the teachers are forbidden to teach about the Holocaust. And we're looking into that. Has
What?
anyone heard about
Wow.
No.
that? Pennsbury, which is Yardley, part of Levittown, that they are forbidding the teachers to teach about the Holocaust.
Ooh.
No,
Wonderful.
but I think that is something we should look into, absolutely.
So I just found that out last week at a board meeting.
Wow.
Do you have any
Going to
idea
see
what the
what-
rationale is?
No, someone just mentioned that that's what she had heard.
So,
And I didn't know
so
if
there's
she
there's a growing movement right now that is being dealt with by the museum in DC. I'm a teacher that trained at the museum, and so I'm very linked in with what their current activities are. And so the Holocaust Museum is working on identifying situations like this. So if you want to, share that with me, I can share it with the museum. So it goes on their radar,
Okay,
as well as the ADL.
okay. Yes, it's Pennsbury School District in Bucks County.
All right, Felicia, I'll be in touch with you.
Okay,
Because I want to know what Hadassah is doing about that too, and then we can coordinate that.
definitely. I'm in. I'm all in on that.
Wonderful, good, because that's horrendous. As I was starting to say, so Audrey and Marcy
Yes,
are not here, but thank you all for the annual contributions you sent in. We collected a lot of money. I'm not sure about the exact figure because they booted me off of the site and then they allowed me back on after much angst, except they wouldn't open any of the portfolios for me. So it's something I'm still working on, and when I solve this, I will get back to you. Phyllis, you're still not meeting at Anne's Choice, I'm assuming.
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm waiting to hear from someone. I put out feelers for someone who would like to help with programming, and I haven't heard anything back.
Okay.
And
And-
it's well, right now, most of our meetings are being canceled anyway. So, and I'd have to find a room. So it's difficult here.
I get it. Phyllis Miller,
We're
you
still
want to tell
working
us?
on it.
Good.
Yeah,
About the things
I
this
did
week.
plan a trip to Hadassah, Israel on January 30th to see Keith Spencer. He's in concert there. And I had a place to go for, I think for lunch beforehand. However, I didn't get a response. So I don't know if that's because nobody was interested or if it's because of the virus. So right now we're not doing it. I don't even know if if that might be canceled
Right,
anyway.
is it gonna happen?
Yeah, so,
I'd go if it's gonna happen, but I bet they'll cancel it.
yeah, I haven't heard yet that
Uh-huh.
they canceled it, but right
I
now,
People
guess-
are very gun shy at the moment.
yeah,
I mean, everybody knows somebody or has Omicron themselves, so I think that's the issue.
right.
We'll see
So,
what happens with it.
It's fine. It's fine for right now. Yeah, so we'll try again maybe in March or April.
Thank you. Book club, Denise, Fran.
Our meeting is next week, a week from today. And we're doing The Girl with a Louding Voice, which is a really, really interesting book. And I should imagine we're going to be virtual. It's
Oh,
We are.
Like,
We are.
I
We
always like to
already
hold
are.
that last crumb of hope, but I don't think it's there.
No.
no, I already had a complaint from someone who told me that she has trouble. She has more trouble interrupting the speaker when it's virtual than when it's in person. Point out that interrupting the speaker probably isn't something one should do at any rate. That's the only complaint I've gotten thus far, so I think we can live with that. And it's a very good book. I'm in the middle of it, so no spoilers. Margie, what's next month for daytime?
Vivian Malay is gonna talk about her journey from Egypt to the United States.
Terrific, wonderful. And that is such an important topic and one that know enough about. I know we had, oh,
Albert Algazi.
thank you so much.
Oh, I went to school with him.
My fog, truly,
know,
from this
yeah.
guy was making me crazy. Yes, we had Albert years ago. By the way, those of you who knew or know Albert's brother-in-law, Lou Bolcher, he's at hospice in home now.
Is he? Oh,
And
Very sad.
they're just waiting. So
Oh.
if any of you want to contact Jocelyn or any of the Bolchers, I was notified. I guess it's
Yeah.
been a week now.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
sad.
they-
He's such a wonderful man.
Email with our
Bye.
And they
Yeah.
are asking, I've contributed dinners, but now they're just asking for lunches, and it's a site. If anybody's interested, I can send you that. Okay, Ellen, do you have anything for education?
I actually do. It's sort of a bittersweet story that is about a woman that some of you may or may not have heard of, but it really piqued my interest. We had a number of celebrity deaths, you know, like Betty White, now, of course, Bob Saget, and Sidney Poitier. But among them was a woman that you may not have heard of named Marilyn Bergman. Now, whether you heard of her or not, you have heard her music. She was a prolific songwriter, Academy Award-winning songwriter, and you've all heard of the song from, oh God, I have it right in front of me, and I'm reading it, From the Way We Were. She won the Academy for that, and From the Windmills of Your Mind, from the Thomas Crown Affair. She wrote the song that Neil Diamond and Barbara Streisand sang, You Don't Bring Me Flowers. She wrote most of her songs with her husband, Alan Bergman. They were Jews from poor families in Brooklyn. So to me, as a Jewish woman and a musician, the idea that someone could have reached the heights of being a Academy Award-winning songwriter at the time that she was writing is very significant for all Jewish women. And I wanted to bring that to your attention. If you ever thought of it, it's in the obituary, it even has a line from The Way We Were. Memories may be beautiful, and yet what's too painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. And those are her words. She is the lyricist. So in your thoughts, it's very sad that she passed away. She was in her 90s. But when I look at the legacy that she left, and also she wrote the themes for a lot of different television shows, very, very prolific writer. So in your thoughts, here is somebody you probably never heard of, but is your mind going, do you hear that song, you know, from the Way We Were, or The Windmills of Your Mind, or You Don't Need Flowers? They were Marilyn Bergman songs. Just wanted to pass that on.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Linda's not here. We're not doing fundraising right now. We will again someday. I have high hopes. If any of you are planning on going to the installation for Philadelphia officers, which was next week, I think, that has been postponed till March. You're not getting your money back. So
right.
hopefully you'll spend it in March. But that's how we operate. We're a charity. Community service, I have no report. I haven't spoken to Sandy lately. I should speak to Sandy. If anybody does know any families that are in need, and I haven't approached Rabbi Briskin again, but if anybody personally knows any families that we could anonymously help, the two that we were helping, I believe, are okay now, and thank God. But I do have various things I've collected, script and whatnot, that I would like to pass on to a needy family. So you can email me and let me know about that.
Do the families have to be Jewish?
No. I don't.
Okay, just asking. I think it, you know, somebody can go through a public school, you'd find some families.
We could, but we've always started with the synagogue,
I know.
figuring that, and particularly in this time, that people are, you know, have come across hard times. But if nobody suggests anything, I'll have Sandy go speak to Rabbi Briskin again. Anybody else before we go on? If I haven't welcomed you, welcome. I see Paula and Jody. Good to see you, kind of. And I want to point out that on my Mac, up at the top, you have a choice of view between gallery, which you're probably on right now, or speaker, which is where I'm going to go. So I'm not going to be able to see all your hands, but you can, in the chat, if you have a question, put your question. Okay.
Do you want me to introduce?
Margie, go for it.
Okay. Hi, Mike. Haven't talked to you for a while.
Good to see
Okay.
you all.
Yeah, Michael Leventhal was elected to the position of Executive Director of the Israeli Guide Dog Center for the Blind in July of 2008, after having served as a volunteer treasurer and a board member for over 20 years. The Israeli Guide Dog Center for the Blind began as a dream. You going to tell us about that, Mike?
Sure.
Moved again. You moved. Okay. But the dream turned into a reality through the incredible efforts of a small group of dedicated people. Michael graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson. Which campus?
Rutherford, it's not there anymore.
Oh, okay. I was in Madison, okay, in New Jersey and Roxton College in England. He has worked in banking and real estate, but spent over 25 years running the family business, a hotel and restaurant in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He also earned an MBA degree in 2002. Michael is an active member of his community and has served as a volunteer on several boards. He is a former umpire for girls softball and was a past president and treasurer of Lenape Valley softball for many years. Michael lives in Doylestown with his wife, Susan. They have 2 children, a son who is a teacher's coach based in Pennsylvania and a daughter who is a pediatrician in North Carolina. He is now a SOBR as of July 2021. Now, which child had this?
Joel, my son's wife, and he had a baby girl.
Okay. Now, do you get to see them often? Is he near you in Pennsylvania?
It's about 40 minutes from here. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm on my way over there.
This is why you didn't want to see us in person. You want to keep it. Okay. He is passionate about providing Israelis who are blind with the independent self-confidence and companionship that can only be achieved from a partnership with a guide dog. He is also thrilled that the organization expanded their programs to include service dogs for soldiers suffering from PTSD and emotional support dogs with children with autism. His goal is not only to raise enough for operating funds, but to create an endowment that will ensure that the center will operate in perpetuity. Now, as an aside, when we were last in Israel, I did see the center, and Mike had me over one time when one of the family was there with their dog. So I've gotten very involved with the organization. It's wonderful. Your turn, Mike.
Thank you, Margie.
You're welcome.
I might ask everybody to mute just so that we cut down on background noises and occasional dog barks and whatnot. And as you can, type your questions into the chat. There will be plenty of time to ask questions. I understand that this program goes until 6 p.m. so that we have lots and lots of time. And believe me, I could talk until 6 p.m., but I believe I have about 40 minutes here to go. Those of you who don't know us, the Israel Guide Dog Center was actually founded here in Bucks County. So this international organization was founded locally. And to briefly tell the story, there was a young man who was an IDF paratrooper, and he trained dogs for the military, and he loved it. And he knew that someday he wanted to do it for good. When he got out of the Army, he looked to see if there was a guide dog school and quickly found out that there was none. At the time, if you were blind in Israel, you had to go to Jerusalem and pass an English test. And if you spoke English well enough, get on a plane and come to America and get a dog. Now think about that. If you don't speak English, you're done. If you do speak English, leave your family for a month, come to New Jersey, get a dog that doesn't understand the Hebrew, that doesn't understand the environment in Israel is very aggressive, and drivers don't yield, and the traffic circles, and people don't wait in line, all of these things that make Israel unique. Then you brought your dog home and there was nobody to help you, no support. So this 26-year-old kid decides that he wants to start a guide dog school. On his own, with no help from the government, he comes to America and he lands in New York, and he finds New York to be a pretty harsh place to live. And he worked for Moishe's Movers and he did odd jobs. And he called all of the guide dog schools in America. There were 10 major schools at the time. And he asked them, will you help me become a trainer? I want to learn this skill and take it back to my people. Every school turned him down, every one. Now, was it anti-Semitism? We don't know. There was some, for sure. But generally, a guide dog school, there is no school to train. And by the way, it's a 4-year course. It's not simple. So most of the time they train you and they expect you to work for them. And so there was no opportunity to pay tuition and learn the skill. So he keeps trying, they keep saying no. And finally, he's about to give up on his dream. And he went to the consulate of Israel in New York and asked them for help. And the guy at the desk said, you know, we can't help you. You're an individual and we're political. But I know this guy in Pennsylvania who loves Israel, loves good causes. Let's give him a call. They call the guy up. The guy says, I'm too busy. I can't do it. And the consulate insisted. He said, just meet the kid. He's a mensch. He's not trying to get rich. He wants to help people. It was the first night of Hanukkah in 1986. And we think it's interesting that an organization for the blind was founded on the Festival of Light. Noach gets on a bus, goes to Doylestown. The guy picks him up, brings him to his home for dinner. And that guy was my dad. And it was my family that met Noach on the first night of Hanukkah. And we helped him get into a school. A school in Ohio agreed to take him. But the cost was $100,000 at the time. And we immediately started the nonprofit around our kitchen table. And we had the Warrington Motor Lodge and Restaurant years ago. And our desk clerks would fold and stuff envelopes. And we truly was a grassroots organization. We started operations in Israel in 1991. And we've since then graduated over 1,000 partnerships, not all guide dogs. Guide dogs, we just graduated our 739th guide dog partnership. But now we're also doing dogs for soldiers with PTSD and children with autism. Now, I've spoken to this group several times, and I love to do it in person because I'm an animated speaker. I have props and things. So Zoom kind of limits our ability to do that. But what Margie suggested today was that we talk more about some of the special needs dogs and how we train them and what we're doing with that training. So first, I want to talk about the PTSD. Soldiers who've been through an emotional trauma on the battlefield and now have a debilitating case of PTSD. Last year, the spotlight was really shown on this problem when an Israeli soldier lit himself on fire because he didn't feel he was getting any support for PTSD. And this really changed the conversation in Israel a significant amount very quickly. Now the whole country was focused on PTSD and what they can do to help these guys. The IDF has come and visited us and declared that we have the best program out there for helping soldiers. And what I didn't realize was PTSD manifests itself as a fear of the bedroom. These guys are afraid to go into their bedroom. They're afraid to go to sleep because they know that they're going to relive this traumatic event. And so what happens is they become depressed, then they don't sleep, and they become more depressed, and then the sleep is even worse. And it's a terrible downward spiral. What we've done is we've trained the dogs to detect when someone's having a panic attack or a nightmare. And usually that's from breathing. And so the dog keys on that and jumps on them and licks their face and wakes them up. Well, it's been proven that if these guys can rely on the dog to consistently wake them, that the frequency and intensity of the nightmares goes down on a straight line. It's incredible, truly life-changing. Not only that, but the dog helps to create a healthy routine. You've got to get up in the morning and let the dog out. You've got to feed the dog. You've got to brush the dog. You've got to take the dog for a walk. All of these things are designed to help the guy get out of bed, put his feet on the floor, and get on with life. And really, that's what it's all about. So we've trained these dogs to do a few different things. The first is what I just explained, the most important part, to wake them out of a nightmare or a flashback. We also train them to create space. So if you're in a crowded space, in a bus station, in a theater, and there's a lot of people all around, the dogs will walk a figure 8 in front of the client and create space, give them some breathing space. In addition, we have another command called the watch command, and the dog will watch behind the client. So if you're sitting at the beach and you're looking at the water, the dog is literally looking behind you. And the dog will alert the client if anybody is approaching from behind, so nobody can startle somebody coming from behind. So these are the main things that we've trained the dogs to do to help these soldiers. It has been an absolutely incredible experience. I've met several of them. They've all told me how the dog changed their life, how that they're able to deal with the stress of PTSD, get back to work. One guy even told us that he and his partners built his dog into his work program. And so dealing with clients and things like that even. So it has been a truly remarkable thing that we're doing. And the Israeli government, the IDF, came to us and asked us to increase the number of dogs that we do for these soldiers. They'd like us to double this year and next year what we did last year. It's not easy. It's the process of raising a dog and getting them trained is about a 2-year process, from start to finish. And we also are very cognizant of the fact that we are the Israel Guide Dog Center. And so our primary mission is to provide guide dogs for the blind. The dogs that we're using for PTSD and emotional support are dogs that would not have graduated into the into the guide dog program. And we evaluate the dogs and we allow the dog to change careers and choose a different career path. And that being either PTSD or emotional support for a child. So that's the basis of the PTSD program. Then we have the emotional support program for children with autism. And that's much more of a buddy companion type of situation. They're not trained to do anything specific, but these dogs have such empathy and it's so giving to the child. And many times a child with autism is unable to be hugged. They don't want to be surrounded and pressed, but they can hug and they can display love and affection. And they're doing it with the dogs. One mother told me an amazing story. Her son was not verbal with the family, never communicated really with the family. And he used to have terrible outbursts. He would throw himself against furniture just to feel something. I mean, imagine that. So after they got the dog, he stopped doing that. And his temper tantrums were reduced to a fraction. And when he comes home from school, he runs to the dog, lifts the dog ear and whispers to the dog everything that happened in his day that day. And the mother is heartbroken that he won't tell her, but very happy that he has this outlet. And she tries to listen in a little to hear how his day went and what was going on in his life. But it's just amazing how these dogs are so empathetic and how they just naturally calm a child down from having these outbursts. I had another interesting experience in California. We were at a Hebrew school and we were about to leave. I had a client with a dog. We were about to leave and the principal came in and said, I have a child who's absolutely in a meltdown situation. Is there any way you could take a minute and go try to see if you can calm them down? So of course, we'll be glad to. So we went into the sanctuary and they brought the child in and he was very agitated. And as soon as he saw the dog went right up to him and started licking his pants. And the kid started laughing and he was giggling and the outburst was over. And he was licking and licking and licking. And we were all a little confused by the licking. And then it came out that the kid had just had a bagel and had wiped his hand on his pants from the cream cheese. So the dog had something to go for. And but it was quite an experience to see how this child immediately calmed down and started petting the dog and laughing. And it was quite a sight. So these are the things that we do. I see somebody in the chat asked if we do anything with dogs for the deaf. We do not at this moment. Although I will tell you there's a disease called Usher's syndrome, where a person is both blind and deaf. The Helen Keller situation. So it's Usher syndrome. We've had 2 clients with Ushers get a guide dog. So yes, we have worked with the deaf, but we're not training the dog to deal with the deafness. Each of those times we had a special interpreter able to sign what we were doing into the person's hand so that they would understand what the lesson was for that day. It's quite involved and quite difficult, but we don't do anything specifically just for the deaf. So I don't know, again, the chat is open if anybody has other types of questions. We use Labradors mainly and Golden Retrievers. Our favorite dog is a Golden Lab, a mix between a Lab and a Retriever. They are incredible dogs. We breed them for a purpose. We breed them for size and speed and temperament. So if we have some big people coming through the system, we'll breed 2 large alpha type dogs that work very fast. If we have a group of senior citizen women, we'll breed 2 softer dogs that will walk slower and are smaller in stature. There's no such thing as the perfect guide dog. There's only the perfect guide dog for you. And so matching is making a shidduch between the dog and the person for the right speed and the right temperament and, trying to meet their needs. So that's all part of the matching process. Many of our clients have told me over the years that they felt that the dog picked them, that when they came to the center and had an option between a couple of different dogs to try out, that the dog that they ended up with had picked them, that they had an emotional attachment immediately with the dog. And it's very heartwarming to hear those kinds of stories. Any questions from anybody? Right now, how many dogs are actively working today? There's about 250 working guide dogs. Even though we've graduated 739, many of our clients have received multiple dogs. For example, this guy right behind me, his name is Itzik Ben David. And Itzik just received his 6th guide dog. And so he's been blind since he's 19 years old. He got his very first dog from us when he was in 1994, just 3 years after we started. So he got the 23rd dog that we ever produced and the 739th dog. Itzik is an amazing guy, lost his vision from RP, has 4 children. 2 of his children are also blind, and one of them uses a guide dog. He's a businessman and very active in the community. He developed a speaker system for blind people in a hospital so that they could get from the front door to where they needed to be listening for audio cues. So he's very active in the disability community and trying to find solutions. I also have another cute story about Itzik. He is very, very confident and self-aware of his surroundings, and he has great orientation. Not everybody does. Orientation is the ability to know exactly where you are at any given moment. So he used to work at the center years ago, and he was giving a tour to a bunch of small children and without a dog, he walked the campus giving this tour. And at the end of the tour, one of the kids said, "Can we meet somebody who's blind?" They didn't even realize that he was blind. He was so confident and so aware of his surroundings. And that's a pretty interesting skill. I've been with a lot of people who are blind. Not everybody is good at orientation, but you need to be good at orientation. There's something interesting about blindness, and you didn't really think about it. But when you're blind, you have to remember where you left your possessions, where the last place where you left everything you own. So everything you own, you have to remember, where was the last place I put that thing? And the mental ability for so many of our clients is astounding. Again, we're lucky we can see where we put our phone, where we put our car keys, where are things, where was the last place I put something? And so imagine the mental ability to be able to remember so much. And it's really, the brain is a muscle, and you exercise the muscle. And some of these folks get really good at it. When you're walking down the street, the dog doesn't know where you want to go. You have to tell the dog. So you give commands, the dog will take you from one curb to the next safely, and he'll stop at the curb so you know where you are and you're counting. I wanted to go 3 blocks and then turn right. Well, you're counting all the time. When you get to the 3rd block, you turn right. I've been in New York City with clients, and at any given moment, I can say, what street are we on? And they'll always know, we're going to cross 78th Street now. We're on our, we've crossed 78th, we're on our way to 79th. They always know exactly where they are, keeping it in mind, counting the blocks as we go. It's quite amazing, really. Question was, how long do clients work with a particular dog? The dogs will work for 8 years until they're 10. When they're 10, they have the option to retire. Now, the client has that option. The client can decide whether they want the dog to retire or not. We encourage the retirement. Also, the Israeli government gives blind people a stipend of $100 a month for the maintenance of the dog once he's been certified. So food and medicine and even toys, but they get $100 a month. The Israeli government decided on their own that when the dog turns 10, they would withdraw that payment. So most of our clients don't make enough money to continue to care for the dog on their own. So most of our clients will release the dog, and the dog doesn't go unwanted. The dog either goes to a family friend, a relative in the area, so they maintain a relationship, or they can go back to the original puppy raiser who had raised the puppy from 2 months old to a year old and 8 years ago, and go back to that original puppy raiser. It's a very nice full circle kind of a thing. Does Israel have a significant population of genetic blindness? Israel has a higher percentage of blindness than most industrial countries because of war and terrorism. So about 17% of our clients have lost their vision due to trauma. Again, either war, terrorism, and trauma also is a car accident or head injury of some sort. But 17%, significant. Here in the States, it's not nearly that high. So we're more about the working with the dog. There's been a lot of discussion. Some people get upset when they hear that the dog retires and leaves the home. That dog is attached to that person. How could the dog would be depressed? Well, we want to say that the dog has emotions in both directions. We've seen dogs who, remember, you work with this dog every day, every single day, from the time you get it until the time it retires. So every day you put the harness on the dog and you go somewhere, go to work, go to the restaurant, go wherever. But every day you put the harness on and you walk. And by the way, we expect the people to walk at least a mile a day with the dog just to keep the dog healthy and to keep his skills high. So every day you put the harness on and every day you go for a walk. Suddenly there's a new dog. And suddenly you're not putting the harness on me, you're putting the harness on him. And why? Did I do something wrong? Am I chopped liver? Why? Why are you not using me now? So in some cases, we actually think the dog is psychologically has a problem with another dog coming in and doing the work. So sometimes it's more humane for the dog to leave the home and just be happy in retirement somewhere else. Again, usually maintaining a relationship with the old client, depending on locations and all that sort of stuff. Very interesting. And then some of our clients will keep their dogs all the way to the end, especially soldiers, because they can afford to. If you're going to go blind as an Israeli soldier. You get a 100% benefit pension. You get a new car every 2 years. You get aids and support like nobody else in the world. So IDF veterans can afford to keep their dogs, and they almost always do. Okay, any other questions out there? I think what else? A lot of people like to know about the process. The puppies are born at our center. They stay with their mothers for 2 months. When they're weaned from their mothers, then and by the way, during the first 2 months, we have a puppy kindergarten. We expose the puppies to lots of things, sights and sounds, things that rock and things that sway, things with different materials and different colors. We run the vacuum cleaner, we make noise. We also breed cats, and we have cats wandering in and out of the kennels so that they don't look at a cat as something to chase. So we take the dogs, we have After the 2 months is up, we place them with puppy raisers. The puppy raisers are all volunteer. They're all over the state of Israel, but most of them are university students on campus. And we like university students because they're always on the go. They're moving between classes. They're going to the library. They're going to restaurants. They're going to cafes. They're going to parties, and they're socializing the dog. And that's the key, to have as many experiences as possible. And what our goal is trying to reduce the stress in the dog. We want the dog to have all these experiences so that when they're working someday and they come across a metal grate for a staircase, they've walked on a metal grate before when they were a puppy. They'll remember, oh, it's okay. I've done this before. It's okay. So we're reducing their stress. We don't want them to experience new things. We want them to say, oh, I've done this before. It's okay. I can deal with it. So they stay with the families for a year. And every month, the family is teaching the dog a new lesson. They always walk on the left on a short leash. They never take food from a stranger. They don't jump on the furniture. They don't table surf. And they learn to go to the bathroom on command. This is very important because later on, when they're working with a blind client, the client needs to know that they can give a command and have the dog relieve itself when it's time. So all of these lessons are taught. At the end of the year, the students come back and we have a very emotional thing called a separation ceremony. And these kids come and for some reason, there's no Kleenex in Israel. They don't have a box of tissues, but they all come holding a roll of toilet paper, and it's very emotional and there's lots of crying. And the dogs are then taken and we evaluate them. We use a system called the BART system for evaluating a dog. And over a 2-day course of time, we make a decision about what career the dog should have. We do not force a dog to work in anything. The dog has to show us the willingness to work. And the tail's got to be up and they've got to be happy. If that's not the case, then we won't allow them to work. There are some dogs that simply become pets because they just don't show us the aptitude to work. So we always are trying to match the right dog with the right person and the right job. It takes about 4 months to train a guide dog. Once we decide that the dog is going to go to guide dog training, it takes 4 to 5 months to train that dog. We use positive reinforcement with a clicker, and we don't yell, we don't pull on the collar. We use all positive reinforcement. We think it makes for a much happier and better dog. At the end of training, the dog will know about 40 commands, all in Hebrew. Go forward, go back, to the right, to the left. Where's the elevator? Find the escalator. Take me to the front door. Take me to my mailbox. So all of these basic commands, there's about 40 of them that the dogs will learn in Hebrew. Somebody asked, why do the dogs have mainly English names? We do have mainly English names because we want to not have the dog be confused and accidentally called in a marketplace in Israel. So we don't want the client to yell Moshe and have 7 people turn their heads and say, yeah. We want the dog to have a unique name. So we do name the dogs English names. Oh, by the way, this guy again, his newest dog is named Bobby. And Bobby, how many of you have heard of Rabbi Alper, the comedian? He's a very famous comedian. He in this area, he was a pulpit rabbi down in Philadelphia for a while. And this dog was named for him. And he jokes with us because his real name is Dr. Rabbi Robert A. Alper. And we just kind of felt that name was a little too long, so we shortened it to Bobby. So Itzik got Bobby just last month, and they're doing very, very well, but it's named for Rabbi Alper, who's a wonderful supporter of ours, by the way. What else do you want to know? Who else has a question? Questions are so much better when we go to questions. And if you want, you can unmute and ask a question too. It's you've all been very good, and it's been a quiet session so far. So if anybody has anything they'd like to ask. Felicia?
I'll ask a question because I'm a special ed teacher by trade, and I've been around various kinds of service dogs. I think it's fascinating how resilient the dogs are to any kind of environmental situation. I wonder if there's any particular life-saving story that has happened as a result of someone who is paired with a dog who's been in a crisis, if there's been an emergency and the dog has been vital to their survival.
Amazing that you asked that, Felicia, because this just happened not long ago. One of our clients got his very first dog. He's a Russian person, got his very first dog. He lost his vision. He's older and he had macular degeneration. And it just got to the point where he needed a guide dog. 2 weeks after getting his dog, he was in the train station and had a sudden heart attack. And the dog sensed something was wrong and pulled him to a person in uniform who immediately got a defibrillator and shocked him and brought him back to life. Absolutely. Now, we did not train the dog to detect heart attacks. That was not something we've ever done. But the dog knew something was wrong, felt it, even though it was a new partnership, pulled the clients to a person in uniform, which also surprised us. I mean, how does the dog distinguish? But he did, and saved his life. I had another story.
That's incredible.
There was a young girl who actually is an Army officer. She's a lieutenant in the IDF. And she was walking down the street with the dog, and suddenly the dog knocked her over and pushed her into a flower bed and into bushes. And she was really upset because, just suddenly the dog just knocked her over. And there she is, in uniform, laying in these bushes. And, why would you do that? Then she hears a motorized bike that was on the sidewalk come zipping by her. Now she knows they would have been crushed had the dog not pushed her physically out of the way and into the flower bed. So it's really, really incredible. And I've got one more great one for you. There's a young lady who had her second child and had a stroke while giving birth and blind. Unfortunately, went blind during birth, went for a full year in rehab, having left her family, left her kids. Her mother-in-law apparently moved in and lived and took care of the family for a full year, spent time in rehab, finally got out. As soon as she got out, she said she wanted a dog. She had balance issues. So we got a particularly large dog with a short harness, and she's able to use the harness for balance and the dog for balance. Things are going great. She's taking her kids to school and so on. 3 o'clock in the morning, a few weeks ago, the dog comes into her room and pushing her, waking her, and she never had done this before, ever. And she couldn't figure out why. The dog pulled her into the child's room. The baby had a very high temperature. And they immediately took the child to the hospital and everything's fine, the baby's fine. But how did the dog know the kid was sick? How did the dog sense that there was a serious enough problem that I need to wake my human up and get some help here? So these are stories, amazing stories. And I have lots more about how dogs people met their spouse because of our dogs, or, so many other wonderful stories. And every story is unique. Every client is so unique. We have guys that have climbed the Himalayas. We've had people go skiing. Now, of course, not with the dog. We have marathon runners. We have so many people that inspire me. 3 of our clients just competed in the Paralympics. Those of you who know us have seen probably the correspondence about the 3 Paralympic athletes. So the dogs give them the confidence to move forward. And really, that's what it is more than anything. Not that the dogs teach so many lessons, but they do give the confidence to move forward. And somebody asked, what's the cost to train a dog? The true, real cost to train each dog is about $40,000. The blind people pay nothing. We do it because so many people love what we do, and we're one of the highest rated nonprofits on Charity Navigator and GuideStar. We're very, very tight. We don't spend money that we don't have to spend. So the money is going where you want it to go, to its intended purpose. We also won the Medot Award in Israel, which is a very high honor given only to the top nonprofits. And the only way to get that award is a financial proctology exam, where the government comes in and goes through your books, interviews your clients, interviews your staff, and really sees that the value is there. And we won that award in Israel. So this is a good one. Those of you who get to go to Israel finally, and I've had 5 trips postponed because of COVID and just waiting until we can go again. But we do invite you to come to the center. We're just south of Tel Aviv. We need to know you're coming because we're a working school. So you need to make an appointment and we can give you a first-class tour. And by the way, especially anybody going from this area, we always have supplies that we need to get to Israel. And if you're willing to take an extra bag of supplies, the tour gets a whole lot better, even a higher level of VIP tour when you take a bag of supplies. It's cheaper for us to buy the supplies in America. And if we ship them, we have to pay an income tax, import tax when they arrive by shipping. But if you carry a piece of luggage on a plane and then go to Israel, there's no tax. It's perfectly legal, but it saves us thousands of dollars in tax. So anybody going to Israel, we'd love for you to take some stuff with you when you go. What else can I tell you? Anybody else have any questions about the process? We train the dogs, as I said to you before, for about 4 to 5 months to learn the basic training. Then we match them with a client, and the client stays with us on campus for 3 weeks. And then we do 1 more week with training with them in their home. We train them on their 4 main routes. So they tell us the 4 routes they want to learn, whether it's to the train station or the bus station or the supermarket or the bank, whatever the 4 routes they want, we train them to go there. And the people continue to train their dogs for many years afterward using the clicker method and targeting. And they can train them to do whatever they want with enough, with our assistance, we show them how to do it so they can target whatever they want to target and learn different things. We have had clients tell us they've gotten lost in their village, got turned around, even though they have good mobility, but sometimes you get turned around, sometimes you get lost, and have asked the dog to just take them home and the dog just does it. Of course, the dog gets used to your routes. We had a client who every Friday, every Shabbat went to synagogue every Shabbat. And so the dog just automatically took him to the synagogue every Shabbat. And some days that weren't Shabbat, the dog decided to go to the synagogue. So they do learn how it works. How many people apply for guide dogs? We do have a waiting list. The waiting list is approximately a year. Now, we manage the waiting list. We don't want you on the waiting list for a year or longer. So not everybody who wants a dog gets on the waiting list. In order to get on our waiting list, you have to prove to us that the dog is going to change your life in a positive way. If you say to us, I need a dog because I'm lonely and I just want to have a companion, you're not going to get a guide dog from us. If you tell us, I need to go to school, I need to learn a new trade, I need a dog because my husband works and I need to get the children from school, you show us that the dog is going to make you a productive citizen, then you get on our list. And by the way, you need to be able to walk about a mile a day. So somebody in a wheelchair is not eligible. You need to be more blind than not, which seems a little counterintuitive, but somebody who's visually impaired is not always legally blind. They're visually impaired. If you can see a little too much, you can't get a guide dog. The problem is if you're working with a dog and the dog is supposed to take you from one curb to the next, and it stops as soon as its paws hit the curb, that's when it stops. Well, if you stop before the dog thinks it's time to stop, the dog will sense that you don't need him to stop. And they'll look at you and say, oh, you don't need me? I won't work anymore. So the partnership will break down if you don't allow the dog to do its job. And so you need not to see. And so if you have a little too much vision, you're not going to qualify. So it's not simple to get a guide dog. And again, to wait a year is also pretty hard. I mean, you've made the decision to get a guide dog. You don't want to wait a year. So we like to manage that process. So the waiting list, again, is about a year, which is about 40 people on our waiting list at any given moment. And then through the year, it cycles up and down a little bit. somebody said that they like the gift cards that we send. We have the cutest cards that we send in honor or in memory of someone. So if somebody's having a wedding, a bar mitzvah, an anniversary, a birthday, we have really cute puppy cards, and you make a donation and then we send the card to the person that you choose. So somebody, Phyllis has got a picture that she's showing of our puppies on a bench. The puppies behind me in this photo, I don't know if you can see it. Now, this was not a posed picture. This happened in real life, just really actually happened. Two of our puppy raisers were out with their puppies, and the big one wanted the little one to play. And the little one was a little tired and just wanted to rest. So the big one's got his arm on her shoulder saying, hey, let's go. I have a card of that, and I use that for in memory of. So, it's comforting. It's a comforting type of a card. So when somebody sends a card in memory of someone, that's usually the one that comes off the shelf. I see it's 2:00. I'm more than happy to stay longer. I can answer questions all day long. I love what we do. I appreciate seeing the people from Hadassah. My mother was a president of Doylestown, Hadassah. My wife was the president of Doylestown. And so I love this group. I love what you guys do. I'm proud to be a Jew. When Jews help Jews, we're good at it. Jews raise more money per capita than any other religion, bar none, far and away. We are helpers. We give and we do. And I'm very proud of what we do. I'm proud of the lives we change. And I'm proud to be a part of a group of people that cares about others. And so thank you all for the work that you do for Hadassah and for all the other gifts and charities that you give. And I know that this week there's been a push to honor Betty White on the 17th, which is the 100th, would have been her 100th birthday, and to give to animal-related projects. So if you're so moved to give to an animal-related project, consider the Israel Guide Dog Center for the Betty White Challenge. Again, I'm available for anybody else has any other questions. You can unmute if you'd like.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Yes, we can easily find it, but can you give us your website address, please?
It's simply israelguidedog.org. ISRAEL guidedog.org.
Anybody else? So I can second what Michael said, because I've given to the charity for years, and I always do research, because it is amazing the number of charities that actually don't use the money that is given to them. So thank you so very much. This was fascinating. And we're happy that your family is involved in Hadassah also.
Thank you all.
Thank you. It was an awesome program.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. See you
Thank
sometime in
you.
person. Got to do this again in person, though.
Sounds
In
wonderful.
Israel.
In Israel, for sure.
Yes, thank you.
Definitely.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
It was
Thank
really
you, thank
interesting.
you.
Good luck at now and continuing your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe and healthy.
You too.
You
You will be
too.
getting a certificate in the mail, or did it get sent out yet?
That would
Yeah, It's going out this afternoon.
Okay,
It's all ready.
okay.
Thank you,
You
fellas.
can pretend when you get it, we're giving it to you in person. Imagine our
Promise.
hands.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care.
Good seeing
Thank
you all.
you.
Hope to in person shortly.
Mm.
Everyone stay
Okay.
safe, be well.
And we'll
Bye,
see you
everybody.
Sunday.
When
We'll
is
see
the
you
next
Sunday.
meeting?
We'll see you Sunday, Eileen.
Meeting Sunday, 11 o'clock, book club
11.
next week, Tuesday at 11 o'clock.
Okay,
Bye.
thank
Okay,
you.
Stay
Bye,
safe,
everybody.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Should I use this, Nidhi?
We should tell him about
What?
how we went over there.
I did.